Uh, Catalyst of the Divine, Chapter 1. Once upon a time, where ghouls and terrors of the depths crawled from where the belly of the earth met the long-trodden road to sovereignty, where the deepest caves and caverns reeked of the lowest circles of hell, and the fires of enlightenment licked the toes of man, the very pain he spurned drove him towards the shapeless image of his own becoming. This is the tale of one such creature, yes, creature, and said time. In a quaint village, tucked away in the still countryside, the indifferent cosmos remembered them, not in grace or even hatred, but in accounting. They were deep into the cold of winter, the otherwise bleak landscape illuminated by the echoes of joy as the torchlight from the longhouse glinted against the ivory landscape. In that village, in a cottage, they danced along the river, which sat at the base of a mountain range bordering the neighboring country. A girl sat in remembrance of a past she did not know, anguished by a blight that had nestled itself so deeply within the crevice of her mind, where dreams and nightmares danced, and reality the mediator of the two. She stared at the moon in quiet peace as the great beyond called to her. She could feel it. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder, and she leaned into it. Camilla, it's time for supper in the longhouse. What's his name? Shit. Lucien caught the largest elk today. No thanks to your new rifle. She hugged her softly. The villagers are dying to see the mind behind the invention. Camilla smiled softly as she grew afraid of her own image. Really now, she said. So sullenly. I wonder how long that will last, she continued. The bell chimed as her father walked through the door of the house. 1 second. Fucking hell, I'm sorry, y'all. Camilla's face lit up as she ran to her father. She tackled him, giggling, trying to put him in a chokehold. He managed to slip out of her grip around her hips, and before she knew it, he had her pinned. He ruffled her unkempt, short, curly hair. The days grow near where you best me, the chief huntsman. He laughed heartily. Camilla's eyes grow wide. You mean to say I have improved? He chuckles. I mean to say I'm growing old. Camilla folded her arms as she pocketed air in her cheeks. Her father pinched her nose. Don't worry. I'm sure very few of even the boys in the village can best you. Honey, her mom said. Yes, Claire. Her father responded, setting his lever-action rifle down as he embraced his wife. I must change, and off we go to the village hall. Camilla looked down, her brows growing wary, deep in contemplation. I'll go, she said as she caressed her black horns that peeked out from the dark of the room and fought against the white of her hair. When the family had changed, they trekked across the village snow, and snow that did not heap, shape, nor figure, as the cold bit against their ears and clawed against their throats with each breath. Lucien, Camilla's brother, sat in the hall, bantering with his friend William. If I had coin for every time you convince an unassuming young lass, I'd be a fucking beggar. Alright, William continues, you sit in your own shit, wouldn't you now? Well, men like you and me cut from the same cloth, aren't we? Lucien responds, but I know me places with the farm girls and whores. William, what were you thinking knocking up the Lord's daughter? William takes a sip of his ale. I don't know, Lucien. Never do anything when you don't know why you're doing it, Lucien spurns. You'll often find that stupidity and incompetence are the greatest form of cruelty, he laments. As he wrapped up his lecture with William, the hall doors opened, revealing Camilla, his mom, and Claire, and his father, Trevor. Camilla ran up to Lucien and hugged him tightly. She looked at his arms, then his face. You're cut and bruised everywhere. Her pupils dilate and her nostrils flare, and you reek of blood. She looks at his stained shirt, lifting it. Lucien, what happened? The bloke and I were making our rounds looking for roadmen. Lucien grips his ale tighter. We came across a werewolf. The room goes silent as the words cut through the room. Well, I used my Bowie knife as any boy, Camilla corrected. Lucien scrunched his nose and his face then relaxed in resignation. Wood, he continued. Camilla hugs and clutches his head, drawing him closer. His head rested against her chest. The air rose cold as she cried. You might not make it through the infection. When were you going to tell us? John looks away, ashamed. I wasn't. Tears flood out of her eyes. The wind grows so still, the candles flicker out. She holds Lucien tighter, his forehead burning against her neck. The wind picked up again and began to whisper to all the villagers in the hall. It whispered through the building, settling through the stone, the crackles in the hearth, and through their coughs. Thus the walls, the wind, and the hearth spoke. If only I knew that the bond of brotherhood is deeper than any woman who would see me as her vessel to motherhood, where the yoke of the earth meets the long-trodden road to sovereignty, where man declared I and thus suffered forevermore from the pain of his separation from her belly. And now the woman stands before me, masquerading as that warmth that my father and his father once left behind. You do not fool me. You will never be man's better. And never have you. You have mistaken his love for you as weakness. For that, you will suffer eternally, as your mother and her mother have. Through death, I return to the womb of consciousness to forget my remembrance, that which the woman offered but could not fulfill. I was promised love for this hell, and now here I lie in the arms of unrequited love, as they whisper to all the forgotten brothers who lie in this field. I was only a boy. They took this from us. Now I lie where the deepest conviction, born from the seeds of righteousness, bloom. My trade is martyrs, kings, scholars, and politicians. All men of will, of any cause, of any purpose, must face me in themselves. If greatness, stature of your fellow man is your ambition, I am your latter, and your fall I am cruelty. I make no parlor, no bargain, no plea. I only whisper as an answer softly behind all the ears of those unrequited love married to a will. The hall was silent as their complexions have grown ghastly. A light began to emanate from under Lucien's skin. It pulsed in tandem with Camilla's breath. The light blinded the entirety of the room, and when it faded, Camilla sat there, clutching Lucien. Lucien looked to Camilla, spooked in awe. You healed me. Lucien frantically searched for his wound on his body and found slimy skin where it had been. The townsfolk all stood up and rushed to Lucien and Camilla as the moonlight beamed down through the windows. Across the village, perched atop the mountain, unbeknownst to them, men dressed in trench coats with rifles hung over their shoulders and weapons of the hunt stared down at the town hall as a blinding light radiated throughout the sky. A crow sat perched atop one shoulder as the greyhounds growled and barked. In the town hall, the townsfolk continued to dance and sing. The doors to the hall creaking open, cut through the air, and the sight of the men with their cleavers, rifles, and greyhounds, and was just there. The town elder spoke warily with a measured cadence. What brings you here at this hour, gentlemen? The light from the gas lamps refracted in the vapor from their breaths, the snow dancing along the broad of their shoulders. One of them points towards Camilla. The church sent us to collect its property. Property? Camilla's father inquired as he held a revolver to the side of his head. The man's gaze remained impassive. Lucien, her father holds out his repeater. Yes, Pa. Lucien grabbed the rifle. Take your sister and ride. Lucien grabbed Camilla and circled around the posse of men, the rifle aimed. The men eyed Lucien, their eyes glinted against the light, revealing a crimson, lifeless irises. The man with the revolver pointed to his head held eye contact with the elder. Girl, you have two choices, he said determinedly. Your people, or you. He continued. You have 10 seconds to decide. Does she now? Her father continued. The revolver went off. The man staggered as the bullet flew out the other side of his head. He turned to look at Camilla's father. Her mother screamed, "Trevor!" The man's hood now off left the villagers gasping. His pale skin danced with the dark of his brow, shrouded by his hair and pale blue lips and crimson eyes that struck against the pale moonlight. He smirked. Fang sharper than the court jester's whip shone like marble in the lamplight. He lunges at Trevor. Trevor fan-fired his kneecaps out and he fell to the ground. Trevor drew his bowie knife, driving it to the man's sternum, but he was met with mist. The man rematerialized behind Trevor, attempting to grab him by the throat, but his knees gave out. The lights turned on throughout the town. You have 5 minutes, Trevor states as he drives the knife through the man's chest. He ignites in the embers, and the screams of hell echo in his dying gasp. The men take off their hoods. We only need 4, they say, voices hard from liquor. The air grew cold, the candles went out. Dread bubbles in the hearts of the people, and settled as an ache in their minds, gnawing at them. One of the men blocks the exit. He pulls out a paper talisman and chants a sigil. A glow begins to emanate from the tattoos on his skin. He throws the talisman on the dining hall. Trevor tries to tackle him, but he's repelled by an invisible field. The great beyond opens up, and something speaks with a wiry voice. What do you bargain? Fear, the man replied. A moment passes as the entity contemplates. Yes, it said. This will suffice. Unspeakable horrors crawl out of the walls. The air around them bends and contorts. The children and townsfolk scream as their souls are snatched from their body, and their bodies dry up in a dry husk. The creature, when it's all said and done, crawls to the man, offers him their souls. The man takes them. He approaches Lucien. Boy, you wouldn't stand 10 paces next to that thing if you knew what it was. Camilla's red eyes shook, darting between the men and John. I'll go, she whimpers. The men smiled callously. The men stepped closer. Lucien fired his rifle. The man flinched from the impact, but remained standing. Lucien pulled out his knife, swinging. The man caught it in the bone of his forearm and grabbed Lucien by the throat. Watch, boy. The disembodied souls were held to Camilla's mouth. Her body reflexively tried to absorb them through her nostrils. I will not be made a monster, she hissed. She fought the urge to devour them. Her will grew weaker by the seconds. Eventually she bites down. Lucien's face grew pale. Snot bubbled from his nostrils as tears came from his face. Camilla finds herself enjoying it. She bites down harder and harder until the villagers, her mom and her father, are nothing more. She wipes the saliva from her mouth. She looks confused. The man threw Lucien to the ground as he grabbed Camilla by the hair, but she was too shocked to respond. She reached for Lucien as she was pulled away. Her lifeless eyes stared back at him. Lucien stood there powerless, frozen in fear, a memory that would burn itself into the deepest trenches of his mind. End of chapter 1.